for all the craziness that we have experienced this year, a lot of good things have happened. Outside of the pandemic, of course, and crazy politics, especially here in the United States, there have been some really cool developments in the world of DLT. And, outside of the little ecosystem that we exist in, it may not be clear to the world what's actually going on. But I think that what's happened this year is paving the way to the future of trusted computing and finance and the way the internet works for the next generation. It's not yet been the case, I think, that China's efforts in DLT have been politicized, but I think that they will be. All right. I think that what China is doing with the BSN, the Blockchain Services Network, and the CBDC efforts, that they are literally a step or two, or maybe three, ahead of most of the rest of the world in terms of their DLT focus and efforts. And that is being noticed. It's not the case that it's really on the forefront. It's not above the fold, so to speak, on the front page, but it will be. And it's going to be interesting to see how the politics of international relations affects companies that are working cross borders with one another to participate in everything that's going on in this global ecosystem of DLT. But let's just go through a little history. In 2015, the DLT market forked or split, if you want to call it that, between public networks and private networks. In December of 2015, Hyperledger was launched. In 2016, R3 came to market with Corda. And the reason for that is enterprises saw the promise of DLT, but there were huge performance problems and regulatory problems, cost problems associated with public ledgers. And it wasn't clear what the most important use cases would be. Fast forward 5 years, and what we've seen is that the private DLT market has slowed down. And those that have been attempting to deploy private DLT solutions have run into roadblocks, namely just the creation of a consortium. You have to have a consortium of parties to run the nodes in your DLT network. The business frameworks, the governance frameworks, the cost structures, all of that is hard. And the world is now recognizing that fact. The enterprise market is discovering what they really want is enterprise blockchain as a solution. In other words, they're now again interested in public networks. That's where we've come full circle. And that friction to deploying private networks, combined with the rise of DeFi and the rise of tokenization, those technology categories, with the realization that you can embed componentized finance, that is the promise of DeFi, into a business process, a business workflow. And the widgets that are in this workflow now are represented by tokens, which reduce barriers to transferring those widgets or those tokens or settlement, or just using that information in ways that we've not previously been able to use it. In other words, what we're seeing is the confluence of DeFi with componentized finance, tokenization, and a realization that public networks are the future, with one more advance or one more change in the market that happened just late this year, really. And that is the realization that business processes need to move off the main net, need to move off of layer 1 to layer 2 so that public networks can scale and provide the privacy and regulatory compliance and customization that enterprise customers really care about. There's just a number of different aspects of the industry that have evolved to the point where, taken together, they've set up the market for enterprise adoption in 2021 and beyond. It's really fascinating to see how the stars are beginning to align. My top 3 is that layer 2 solutions are going to become prominent. When we look at the public networks today, they really do 2 things. They take transactions, they put them into consensus order, and then there's a layer of business logic, smart contracts that many of your viewers will understand and know. They all get processed by the same nodes that are putting those transactions into order. That doesn't scale well. That's what we call layer 1. And there's a recognition by the industry now that that has to change. And that business logic layer has to be moved off of layer 1 into a peripheral network. And there are various ways of doing that. Ethereum, Vitalik, is proposing a particular architectural approach of doing that for Ethereum. Hedera, of course, has an alternative approach that we call application networks that use just consensus ordering by our main net, the layer 1 network. So I think that this is going to become really important. It's going to become prominent, and there's going to be a movement at an industry level over the next 2 years, really, to move all of that business logic off of those layer 1 platforms into layer 2 peripheral networks. That's going to be a major theme beginning in 2021. DeFi, while it was clearly a bubble in 2020, similar to what we saw in 2017 with the ICO craze, we're going to see the real fruits of that work, the R&D that was the foundation of DeFi, beginning to evolve and become important in ways that are going to change finance for years and years to come. The bubble will burst if it's not already on its way, and what's left behind will build into the Legos of finance. What's interesting to me is that the biggest players haven't yet really entered the market, right? The PayPal obviously is out there beginning to say, we're now taking this seriously. We're going to be in the market. We're going to be the blockchain player of the market. I think PayPal is going to end up competing, obviously, with Libra. That's my speculation. But the industry is going to change when the tech giants really begin to get involved in a meaningful way. I think that's going to happen in 2021. It's going to be fascinating to see how the rest of the market reacts. What we've seen to date has been interesting in that we've built quite a large industry, but it's an industry of small players by and large. And that's going to change. We're going to see consolidation. We're going to see players that were important in years past die off, go away, become unimportant, and the tech giants are going to make their mark. So we'll see what happens in 2021. I don't know exactly what it will look like. I do know that a year from now, things will look very different than they look today.